Okay, it's 2 o'clock, so I'd like to call this special meeting of the Kirkwood Meadows Public Utility District to order and ask Peter to do the roll call, please.
Sure. Epstein?
Present.
Schroeder?
Present.
Minutes-Aranda?
Here.
Burrow?
Yeah.
Dornberg here.
Okay, thank you. Eric, announcements?
I'd just like to welcome everyone to the special meeting, and please use the raise your hand function if you'd like to speak.
Okay, and thank you. And this meeting, there's another meeting at 3, so our intention for this meeting is to complete it in an hour. I think given, I have no idea what public comments there might be, but we will, in order to make sure that complies, return to our standard of saying if there are people in the public want to speak on the issues relevant to this, that we will limit it to 3 minutes. If we have extra time at the end, we'll allow people to come back. But I think we learned from the last meeting that we really need to do that in order to be able to complete our agenda on time and keep moving things forward. Next, are there comments from the audience? An opportunity to discuss anything with the board that is not on the agenda? I'm not seeing any hands raised.
No.
We'll give it a minute. Okay, none, Eric?
None.
Okay, written comments from the public. There is one item in the board packet that I saw. There was a set of questions. I didn't see anything else. So move on to item 7. And the first one is item 7A, Resolution 23-06 to declare a general election for 2 of our board seats. Eric, you want to walk us through?
I'll let Brittany take
Brittany.
that.
Sorry, Brittany, yes, please.
You have to mute Brittany. She's not unmuting, so until she gets unmuted, basically this is just
She's gonna use my computer real quick. She doesn't have a microphone for her station, but here she is right now.
okay.
What do they want to?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I don't know. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Sorry, I don't have a microphone on my computer.
All right, well, we're going to need to fix that.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so it's resolution 23-06. We have 2 seats open in the election, director seat number 1 and 2. Do you want me just to read it?
No,
No.
just give us the highlight of what's happening.
Okay, so it's basically stating that the candidate has to prepay at the county clerk's office and that they have to turn in their candidate statements, and it's limited to 200 words. And then it's also stating that if there is a tie vote, then it's going to be a drawing of straws by the manager. And then if it's passed and adopted, it's just stating that we're declaring a general election with 2 seats open.
Okay, and I think it'd be helpful if you just highlight the dates for submission. Highlight those. Candidate submission dates.
Oh yeah,
those,
okay.
Yeah, those are further in Teola's aspects.
Yeah.
They have the dates outlined in one of their sections here. Do you remember
I think the candidates have to have it in, but in the middle of July. But
There you go.
July 17th through August 11th.
Yeah.
And that includes their statement.
Yes.
So what is the July 5th deadline?
It's just stating that we're having our election and
Okay.
our maps and boundaries are the same.
Okay. I'm still trying to find August 11. Okay.
Yes.
No, August 16. No, August 11. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's two deadlines in here. One is we have to affirm our boundaries and our predilections with the county clerk, and then for candidates, their time to file their paperwork is between July 17th and August 11th. This is literally the same it's been biannually since Alpine County took this over for general election for the district.
Right. And the two highest vote getters in the election then assume the seats.
Yeah.
Unless
Okay,
there's a tie.
Yeah, unless there's a tie. Are there any any questions for Brittany? And if not, can I have a motion to approve resolution 23-06?
Actually, Bob, sorry to this is in the be it further resolved. Can we change his or her to their, just as a more gender neutral term?
Okay.
Actually, I think this is elections code because we get this is exactly from Alpine County, so I don't know that I can presume to change their language, but it's up to you. If you want to try it, I just don't want to have to fail and have to redo it.
I mean, if it's going to be an issue for this time, it would be worth a conversation with Tiola, if we could, just to ask her if that's possible in the future.
Yeah, no, we definitely can do that.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Any other questions?
Okay, Dover, so move to approve resolution 2306.
Okay, it's been moved. A second, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Peter?
Epstein?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Minnesota?
Aye.
Burrow?
Aye.
Norbert, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to
All right. Thank you.
item. Thank you, Brittany.
I was not prepared for that. Oh, you did great.
Okay.
So
Pass the
put your-
hat back. Okay. Our next item is 7B, the Sun Meadows 3-4 loan repayment options. And who's going to carry this one?
I can if you'd like to, Eric.
It needs the bottom of the report, so yeah.
So this is a report that finance has reviewed and was pushing or would recommend option one. So a brief overview, we used to have two offsite employee housing units. One was the Meadows and one is Sun Meadows. We still have the Sun Meadows unit. The Meadows no one was interested in it. And we end up selling it for a profit. So we were hoping to use that profit to offset the loan and the interest on that loan. So there's three options that the board can decide between, or if there's another option that someone else recommends. The first option is the one that finance recommended, which is taking the proceeds or the profits from the Meadows unit and putting that amount towards the loan that is still being carried by the Sun Meadows unit. The second option would be to take a portion of that, which would be the portion that we have left over from the fiscal year, and then leave everything else to cover costs from this year. We could also, the third option being that we could take and just leave all that income in the fund and let it offset what is normally a negative fund for the next 3 years. So those are three options. I know there's more detail in the packet, which I can go into if anyone wasn't able to review that.
Tommy, just remind me, what is housing as a negative fund? Remind me why and when that would not be the case, or what we're doing to not make that the case.
Property taxes is what writes that fund annually. Same with G&A, same with fire.
Parks.
And parks, yeah.
We don't charge for housing our actual costs. The housing is something we do to keep employees in the valley.
And we do charge a small amount for housing, as a matter of fact.
Right, but not our total cost.
Not the total
Correct.
cost.
Right.
So it's not that this is I'm just trying to make sure I'm reminding myself of all of the things that we have some funds that are negative that we're trying to correct. This is not one that we're necessarily trying to correct for. This is expected to have a negative balance annually due to what you just said.
That's correct. We're not trying to run housing at break even or a profit. We're trying to make it so employees can live here.
Yeah, and to keep employees.
And to keep them, right. Exactly.
And it will reduce interest paid on the life of the loan over the course of the loan, which is something we would not realize in using it any of the other options.
And it would save us about $33,000 in the life of the loan if we did go through option one.
Right. So yeah, thanks. John, from the finance perspective, you want to offer any information on why your recommendation?
Yeah, like as was stated, the housing shortage isn't really something to be addressed, and saving $33,000 in interest payments is attractive to the district. So that's why finance recommended option one.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. If Measure E doesn't pass, have we budgeted any money to do the remodeling of the firehouse to make it more usable?
Yes, that was included in the capital budget.
It's in the capital budget.
Okay, other questions, comments?
I have a comment myself. So yeah, I think we have an opportunity here to relieve pressure on our tax allocate on how we use the taxes, and there's a lot of demand for it indeed. And I wonder if it's wise to actually not using, because if we do use this proceed from the sale of the other studio, we could actually buffer, I mean, it'd be safer options, in my opinion, than going along and basically trying to save interest at a rate which is fairly good. 4.6% is actually not a bad rate. I mean, it's not excellent. I mean, 2%, I totally would already propose it. At 4.6, I still think there is a lot of pressure, especially with the uncertainty with the Measure E. And we may need actually more fund for the fire department. And if we could relieve pressure on the tax, or how we use our tax, that will give us more flexibility to address all the demand that we have actually for the tax. It's knowing that we also have the remodel of the wastewater treatment plant. So I think it'd be prudent to use actually option 3 instead of option 1.
Okay. You realize it will cost the district $33,000 more to do that.
Again?
It will cost the district $33,000 more ultimately.
Over the 3 year. Yeah. So
over the life of the loan, but
yeah. So if we could still decide to do it next year, by the way, I mean, it's just with all the uncertainty currently, I think pausing on that seems to be a wise move we keep more options until the Measure E situation clear. That's my position. Because we could still decide to do that 6 months down the road. We don't have to make that decision today.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bertrand, on that. I think I'd prefer to defer on this until after Measure E is resolved. Because I see housing as a primary motivation for people to join the fire department. I think that's a priority right now.
So explain to me what, just so I can understand the position there, what would be different in either case? If we got information that it passed versus didn't pass, what would you want to do with this $108,000? Like, what would you propose that we would be doing differently in those two scenarios? Just to, if you can help me understand more clearly what the thought would be there.
So let me give you, basically, let's assume measure E fell. In this case, we still need to improve now the fire department and its funding so I think having more room on more money available to take care of whatever need to be taken care is something important. So I see no harm in waiting after Measure E election to make a decision.
Sure. I think waiting 1 month or whatever is probably fine. I'm just trying to understand what would be different, because I mean $100,000 different.
But
what would
as
that
I said,
do for us?
It's clear the
more
demand.
Stipends or more like what would you propose would be doing with that money?
Well,
I guess
I don't have in front of me the KVFG budget, and we should need to look at that. But basically, that should be part of the discussion as a starter. Mm-hmm. So my recommendation, I'm going to move for that actually. I'm going to make a motion that we actually move back this topic for after the election of Measure E, so we have clarity on that and what the fire department need to be able to function this year.
And just so we're clear, this is the employee housing fund, not the fire department.
I understand
housing fund.
That what so we do, we are freeing demand on tax allocation. That means if we don't have to use tax allocation to pay for the employees, then that means there is more money that we can tap on for the fire department. So that I have my motion.
But at most of the tax allocation per year, right? Is that your point, Tommy? It's not like you would get $108,000 in this year. It would just be the tax allocation for the 3 years that I think you loaded in here. It's not even $108,000 in 1 year. It would be 20,000 maybe each year. I mean, 36,000. So basically, we would be opening up $36,000 potentially for this fiscal year coming up. Correct?
About maybe if that.
That's correct. That's what I understand. Yes.
I'm prepared to second your motion.
Okay. John. I think there is someone from the audience that wants to say something.
I have a question about those funds could potentially also be used to help for housing or housing improvements for volunteer firefighters. Right? If we're talking about housing fund, that if there needs to be a certain only if it's the use of it is restricted unless it's used specifically for housing on a yearly basis, then potentially
it's not.
It's not. Okay.
It's all G&A at the end of the day.
Okay, so I do know that that's that is an area that fire department may be able to have some additional support as far as tying it into this whole housing discussion.
Yeah, and I see zero harm to delay by a month that decision, by the way. Since we are June 21st and the election is July 11th.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to delay this item till the next, I guess, till the August board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, then a roll call vote, please, Peter.
Epstein?
No.
Schroeder?
No.
Minutes, Rhonda? Is that a yes? Aye?
Yeah, aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Bro?
Aye.
Number aye. The motion passes 3-2.
Okay, so this will be deferred. All right, we'll move on to item 7C.
I'd just like to make a comment. Deferring meaning actually it's equivalent to option 1 for now until we revisit in August. The same thing. in practical manner.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7E. So this resolution is the legal adjustment to the statement that we worked on at the last board meeting to state our intention of what we intend to do what we commit to do as a board if Measure E passes. So this is the statement. This is the lawyer's version of the statement that we worked on. When I say we, I kept notes from the meeting, wrote them up to the best of my understanding, and then passed them to the lawyer for editing into legalese. So let's first start out and say whether there's any whether the board collectively feels that this represents what we said at the board meeting. So I'll open that up, and then I have one clarification I want to offer. Should I call on people just to confirm? Or does anyone want to speak up?
I have no feedback.
You said you had a clarification.
I do.
Let's give you a clarification.
Okay, so I'd like to recommend that the statement can you slide that down just a little bit? Okay, there we go. Stop there. Item 1-i, which currently says advance the KFD from an all-volunteer operation to contracting 2 certified firefighter EMTs available full-time, complemented by trained volunteers. I've heard from several people who read this in the packet who believe it could be misinterpreted to mean that there's exactly 2 people. And so to remove doubt from that, I'd like to recommend that sentence be changed to say, advance the KFD from an all-volunteer operation to a contract service that is responsible to ensure that 2 certified firefighter EMTs are on duty at Kirkwood in Valley at all times, 24/7, complemented by trained volunteers.
Me.
Okay, so I just want to check from the board members that this reflects what we discussed at the last board meeting.
Yeah, I think we should make clear that actually 2 for 24/7, 365 means 6 actually employees. Yeah,
it could be more than 6. We don't have any control over that.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, is that the contractor is responsible to make sure there's always 2 certified firefighters on duty. That's the way I tried to address it without trying to commit to 6, because it could be more. We don't.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Are there comments?
Now, this is my recollection is we're capping next year, the first year at 700,000 and capping 2025 at 1.1 million. So I think that's what we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I recall.
Yeah. Okay. Are there Doug, do you have any comments?
I'm fine with your.
You're okay with it?
And I think it reflects our conversation. Thank you.
Okay, and Peter?
I don't have any problem with it.
Okay, and Bertrand, are you okay
No,
with the
actually,
way
I do have problem with it because I am actually not in line with the decision of having 365 days this kind of service all season, when even when there is actually almost nobody in the valley. And I know that the current discussion with the FPD preclude to look at some seasonal arrangement, but maybe we need to look at other providers. And so I'm not actually in line with this resolution. So I think it doesn't achieve what I was hoping for. So also the fact that the measure E, I can extend. Since we discussed, I did receive my ballot actually. So I went through it, and there are a few things that actually bother me into this process. I mean, besides the fact that it seems that we are moving backward instead of moving forward into a process that first involves the community to understand what they want, then try to planify this and actually approach provider to have an idea of pricing and cost, to finally offer a measure to the community. So it seems we are doing everything in reverse order. But what I'm really concerned is, and actually it's shown up right in the measure itself, which says that the maximum annual special tax levy is $513 per parking space. And that's really a problem to me. I think this is not only simplistic, like it was said at the last presentation, it's actually not proper, inappropriate, I would say. It's not a proper reflection of what the use is, and we should try to find a way to levy this tax based on the actual benefit that it offers to the various members of the community. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with your clarification and amendment that you do it, but I'm still not in line with this measure, actually. Yeah. And I see several hand raised, but go ahead. Yeah.
We need to have a board discussion, then we'll open it up to community, if we can, please.
Yes.
The intention of this, and why I thought we had unanimous agreement at the last meeting, that could be my misunderstanding, is if Measure E passes, we will immediately have to specify what the tax total is for the first period. So this is clarifying that the board's intent, unless it's not your intent, that we would not exceed $700,000 in the first year or 1.1 million in the second year, and that our intention is to implement 2 full-time firefighters. So that's the purpose of this. It isn't to argue the merits or the definition of Measure E. It's to clarify what the board's intention is if it passes, and we only have a couple weeks to notify the county of what the first assessment will be.
Yeah, I mean, I think I sang it differently, Bob. It's like, I don't disagree, Bertrand, with some of your points on the process that we followed. I think we've learned a lot about how we could have approached this differently, but we are here now. And, I think I made a lot of comments regarding this at the last meeting before this was drafted, and that I am trying to hopefully give some clarity and move us in a direction where I think it meets what we learned from the community, from comments, what we heard from the survey and things like that, given where we are now, that ballots have been sent and this is out there, and giving the community some assurances so then that way we can move forward very quickly if this were to pass in time for the timelines that Bob mentioned.
Other board comments? Okay, not seen any, and I'm not in the room. Are there members of the public that wish to speak?
There was a room.
I do. There's others ahead of me if they're.
Yeah, Cecile, then I don't know if you were next or Christian was next.
I think they were both.
Cecile, then Christian, so.
Okay, and I would ask a 3-minute time limit, please. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. First, I want to thank all of the people who serve on this board. We are homeowner at Kirkwood on Denberg, and while we are not opposed about changing the situation of the firefighter, I think the measure E is not clear. And then also the cost is a lot, and specifically if someone can explain from 700,000 to 1.1 million in a year, and also the measure E cannot be forever, because it looks like if passed, the measure E will be forever. And there is something in this clarification, which is why the limit will be 1.9, or even on the ballot, I read something about 6 million. So as a homeowner of Kirkwood, we would like to ask the board to postpone this measure E till there is a better clarification and information to the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Should we offer a little clarification? Because
I think we will, but let's first hear from the public.
I disagree with that. I think typically we respond to people. She has a specific question: why 700 versus $1 million? It's because it's partial year. It's not a full year. It's the same cost for both years, but 1 year is partial and the other one is full. And as far as 1.9 million, this is a current limit. It can be increased 2 to 6% depending on the CPI, but no more than 6 million. That's called the GAN limit over time.
Yeah, the other item in the 1.1 is the unknown cost of supervision, which hasn't been decided.
So that means there will be no supervision in 24?
No, 24, you're accurate. The 24 can be held to 700 because it's a partial year, but the 1.1 was not only a full year, it also added in some money for what we believe supervision might be.
But anyway, it's just partial versus full year. There'll be the changes indeed, yes.
Well, I think what I'm saying is the 1.1 can be lower if the supervision cost is less. It's just an unresolved item with Amador Fire Protection District as far as what amount of supervision are they going to require.
And 1.1 million is our best estimate of what a worst case requirement might be. We would certainly want it to come in lower than that. And the election is scheduled and the ballots are out, so we can't postpone the election. And so what we're trying to do as a board is clarify our starting point, which is to focus on having 2 firefighters available at all times, and to keep the first year's costs under $700,000 so we can have a better understanding. I believe we've covered all the questions. So can we move on to the next question from the public?
Yeah, Christian's up.
I'm just addressing the change you're making to the resolution. I think it's still extremely confusing. I know that when I received your initial email mentioning 2 full-time resources, this is what I thought it was. But you cannot provide 7 by 24 by 365 with 2. You need at least 6 people. And I think you need to make it clear to the community that we will be contracting for at least 6 people. I think some people have already voted based on understanding there were 2 people hired full-time, which typically what it is, not 6. So I would suggest that 1I be revised to actually describe exactly what we're planning to do.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I am certainly open to any clarification that makes it better, but the way this would actually work is assuming that we work out an arrangement with Amador County Fire Protection District, we would contract with them to make sure there's always 2 certified firefighters on site at Kirkwood or their equivalent by trained volunteers if they, in their judgment, they view that's okay. And it's their job to figure out how to make sure that that's always there. And then they will bill us for the actual time spent. So we're asking them to make sure that that's always the case. It is also true that they have no way of doing that unless they had at least 6 people to rotate through. So let me ask Rick if he has a suggestion of how we should word this. Yeah.
Let me suggest something very simple. If we said 24/7, 365 instead of full time, then it's obvious that it can be just 2 people. So I think full time may be clarified.
Okay. What I said here is to ensure that 2 certified firefighters are on duty at Kirkwood in Valley at all times, 24/7. Do you want me to say 24/7, 365?
Okay, so that's actually an improvement. Yes.
You want to add 365?
I would, yeah.
What about a leap year when it's 366? What about a leap year when it's 366? 1 day off.
They'll be off the hook. No, that's basically our commitment. It's not a contract. Yeah.
It is to contract. It's not to hire. It's to contract for those 2 firefighters.
Yes, I was trying to describe it as a contract service.
Always available is a different statement than available full-time, I think. Yes. Always available would actually resolve that ambiguity.
What I said was 2 certified firefighters, EMTs, are on duty at Kirkwood in Valley at all times, 24/7. Does that work? Or
maybe you should say 24 hours per day. Get rid of the 7, and we don't have to deal with 365 either. Just say 24 hours a day.
All time. Yeah.
No.
Every day.
At all times.
It says at all times, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I should share my screen and we could make sure we all agree on the wording.
Want to finish the comments, or wordsmith in the middle and change it at the end?
No, if there's other comments from the audience, let's go to that.
There's at least 2 more. So
okay.
Yeah, Sam Floor. So Bob, you mentioned earlier in this conversation that the intent behind this resolution is because if Measure E is passed by the voters, the board will need to immediately put into place the amount of funding that the CFD will be going out for
the first year. For the first year, that's correct. It's due in August in order to be in the tax rolls.
So I'm having and then the other thing I had understood from the last meeting is that amount can only be based on what the actual costs are. So I'm having a hard time following how this resolution and the steps to getting to that final decision in August work when we don't have actual numbers of what things are going to cost. We don't have an actual proposition as to what this department is going to look like. And we don't have a parking allocation structures or parking number counts that we're working with. Unless you have all those and are just not sharing them with us. But it seems like we don't have that information, and we're trying to placeholder information, which it seems to be kind of been the process for this, which is unfortunate in my opinion. But it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't seem to follow the information that you have given us previously about how this has to be based off of actual costs. And how you can actually make these decisions today when we don't have the numbers that we need to make, you need to make the decisions.
Okay, I can address that. So first off, there's no way we could actually have a contract unless we had a way to pay for it. And there's no way to, so we're always in a position of using our best knowledge and moving forward with that. So we are working with our best knowledge and want to assure people that it would not exceed the $700,000 if it's approved by the voters.
So what happened if the FPD proposal for 24 is going to be higher than 700K?
It won't be. Well, it won't be because we have some control over when it starts. So in the worst case scenario, it would be based on starting. We've also been told by Chief Withrow that he doesn't have the people standing by, so he has a ramp up time. So we think it's reasonable that we can stay well below that or below that.
So what's the point of doing this other than just to try and make people more comfortable for voting yes on the measure that is really approving way more than this? Of doing this, since we really have no idea what those costs are.
This is a reasonable number that we've spent a year on, so we know it's a reasonable number, and so people have some idea of what the initial year will be. We think that's better information than having no information.
Okay.
Yeah, for the record, as a board member, I never was exposed to this kind of numbers calculations, so which I find a bit weird. We are working as a board of 5 members, and actually 2 of them actually are designing this process, and I think that's inappropriate.
Okay. Are there other comments from the audience?
Yes, Mark Musgrove.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, sorry, Mark. I meant to lower your hand and I hit I meant to lower his hand and they hit the wrong button.
All right.
I don't have a good mouse here.
Sorry, Mark, that was not intentional.
Oh, no problem at all.
Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I'm as you probably know, I'm sort of new to the Valley and trying to figure out whether this makes sense to vote for or against this measure. And I just wanted to ask the question. I think one of the prior commenters had mentioned sort of, just year-round services versus contract services for a certain period of time. And obviously, I would always like to see service provided to my property year-round if that was available. But I do wonder with the amount of services that I see available in the Valley at certain times of the year that would obviously mean that occupancy is significantly reduced. Why we have not an option here to provide it when there are high occupancy levels in the Valley, and whether that can be done in conjunction with Vale and Barton, who seem to have some emergency services available in the Valley during the kind of the winter months. The other point I sort of would raise, having seen what happened with the Caldor fire, is that when something serious happens, then CAL FIRE descended and used Kirkwood as a base with significant numbers of firefighters in that particular type of emergency. So I wonder if there's, the fire piece is the most important, or whether the EMT is the most important. If it's the EMT that's really important, then I wonder if there is another option that's been considered to do that with a more cost-effective basis during the periods when the population percentage would justify having that facility in place.
Okay, thank you. Rick, do you wanna comment on this? I mean, there's kind of two questions here. One is whether it would make sense to have, and first of all, that the actual contract availability is yet to be negotiated, but whether it makes sense to have the fire department not staffed during portions of the year. And then secondly, is Barton an emergency service provider?
So I'll start with the second part of that. The Barton Barton Hospital is hired by Vail Resort to essentially run a first aid clinic with a doctor at times during the winter. They are not technically a receiving facility for the fire department, meaning that if someone got hurt either on the east side or the west side, I legally can't take that patient or direct that patient to go to the clinic. I have to go through the 911 system and send them to the closest available receiving facility that is within the scope of the emergency plan defined by the Alpine and Amador counties. And so again, Barton is basically a facility that Vail uses and hires to run during the winter for their ski operations. So now we do assist Barton when they have medical emergencies that involve aircraft, or they don't have a doctor on scene and they need additional personnel to treat a patient. But once they initiate the 911 system, we run it through the 911 system. So again, Barton's not a receiving facility for the fire department. And right now, this current moment, it's not open. So it's not helping us at all. The other side of that is, I've heard that, oh, what if we just hired the fire department during the winter season when there's peak population here in the Kirkwood Valley? And yes, we definitely need them during the peak population periods, staffing, but we also need them year round. You never know when a fire is going to start, whether it's by a lightning strike or construction worker or whatever the case may be. It's 24/7. We just don't know. And Caldor was in the middle of summer, and we brought in a lot of additional resources from all over the country to address that, of course. But again, you can't basically not have coverage during the off season because things happen. So, and
okay.
hopefully
I'd
that
like
answers
to
the question.
say this is what we've done for the last 40 years. So don't say we can't. It's a choice.
Well, let me tell you, as the fire chief, it's not sustainable any longer when I have minimum amount of volunteers. An example like last weekend where literally I was the only person on call for a significant period of the time. That's not providing coverage. And
okay,
the only reason why excuse me, don't interrupt me. I'd like to get my thought out here. The reason why all this came up in the first place, because since 2017, or when the master plan came out, as you know, the volunteer pool is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's not sustainable. And so to address this, we're looking to fund a way to hire some firefighters. So, but to continue the way we are now, it's going to be very difficult.
So you say, as you know, I don't know. The reason I don't know is because I have not seen any effort, maybe they were, I've not seen, I'm saying, to actually recruit. And I know we have increased the stipend, but who knows about it? It was not properly disseminated. There was no specific effort by the district to increase the reach and reach out to the community and to the resort to get more participation. So I don't know. Maybe you're right, but I don't know.
Okay.
I think we should try.
Let me just suggest our purpose here is item 7C, which is to state, as we requested at the last board meeting, our intention, the board's intentions, if Measure E passes, what we intend to do. So that I strongly recommend we keep it to this topic and see if are there any other public comment wishing to speak, Eric?
No.
Okay, let's move it back to the board to conclude then. If I can, Eric, I'll bring up my page. John, do you want to?
Yeah, I just had something to add. I can see why people are be frustrated about not having precise numbers, but to be honest with you, it's almost the way all the projects work. I mean, you do your best to try to budget for a certain requirement, and then once you run the project, there can be changes, right? There can be more expensive or less expensive than you expected. So if you look at, we've got a large wastewater treatment plant project, and I'm sure it's not going to come in exactly on the dime of what we got from the engineering study a few years ago. And that's why all the financial reports have budget versus actual, because as you through the course of running the business or doing a project, costs change over time. So so I can see why it'd be frustrating not to know precisely what the dollars would be, that there's outstanding items like the level of supervision required. But it's also kind of the reality of any budget you put together. It's your best plan that you can, and then you do your best to try to manage to the plan. Does that makes sense?
Yeah, thank you, John. Okay. Is my text on the screen now?
Mm-hmm. Could you make it larger, Bob?
Yeah.
It's too small. Can you make it bigger?
Yes, I'm working very hard to do that.
We're only seeing the original.
Does that work?
No, we're only seeing the original, Bob. Remember, we've had this problem before. You got to reshare with a new.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Does that work?
Yes. We can see it anyway.
Okay. Okay, so the sentence changes in the middle. Advance the Kirkwood Volunteer Fire Department from an all-volunteer operation to a contract service that is responsible to ensure that 2 certified firefighters or EMTs are on duty at Kirkwood in Valley at all times 24 hours per day, complemented by trained volunteers.
I would add a comma after times.
A comma after times right here.
Mm-hmm.
Does that show up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, Bob, the only problem you're going to get into is in Valley at all times. What if they get a call at Red Lake? They're out of Valley. Or if they get a call at Bear, they're out of Valley. I would delete that in Valley. At Kirkwood's clear enough. And it's also ensure, not insure, would be the other thing. EN, not IN.
Just about to say that, Eric. Thank you.
All right. Well, I left little traps in there for people to find, of course. All right. So at Kirkwood, on duty at Kirkwood.
24 hours per day. Yeah.
Per day, complemented by trained volunteers.
Complemented. Doug didn't catch that one.
Okay, so the resolution 23-07 would be as is, except for the replacement of this one sentence.
You'll send that to me, Bob, if it passes.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll move
it. Okay, it's been moved by Doug to accept resolution 23-07 as modified. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on specific to this resolution? Okay, hearing none.
Actually, hold on. So I'm going to make one comment here, slash.
Go ahead.
While we are all in support of improving KVFG and expanding mechanisms, the current process for Measure E, as I said earlier, was backward and rushed. But Unfortunately, Measure E, as it currently is proposed on the ballot, has baked into it a funding mechanism that is inadequate, not supported by the community, and that will expose the district to litigation. I understand it's too late to change the Measure E in the ballot. Therefore, I move to propose a resolution to retract the previous resolution from the board to pursue Measure E and instead initiate another measure for which we commit to work with the Kirkwood community and emergency providers that will then be submitted to a community vote.
There's a motion on the floor that we need to vote on first before considering any other motions.
Okay.
I mean, that's Robert's Rules of Orders, not mine, even though we share the same first name. Okay, any other discussion on what's proposed, on what's been moved and seconded? Okay, Peter, roll call vote, please.
Epstein?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Minaturanda?
Aye.
Perot?
No.
Thornburg, aye.
Okay, resolution passes 4-1. That completes item 7. Item 8 is general discussion, opportunity for board members to ask question clarifications. Subsequent agenda. So is there any board members wishing to speak? Okay, then.
So as a general discussion, I would like we approach the concept of reopening this building to the community. It's paid by the community for the community. And I know that the district operates within it as well, but I don't think it's appropriate to keep it closed forever. Like, I think we should try to find some middle arrangement so the community could benefit from this infrastructure as well. And I'm thinking, for example, allowing maybe with a retainer for cleaning, HOAs to have meetings in that room and stuff like that. So I think I'd like to have that back on some future meetings so we can discuss at the board meeting.
Okay. Are there other comments from the board?
Yeah, I concur with Bertrand on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I liked when we could have our annual HOA meeting at the district. And I also like that the resort and general manager participate in those meetings because it really provide a lot of good information to the HOA members.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, then it's 2:58. I move to that. We'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for making time for the special meeting so we could move forward on these items. And I'll look forward to seeing you all at the summer festival in 10 days. Thank you, everybody. And Eric, I'll email this to you right now.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks you all.